Coming up next on the Union Label will be a conversation with Al Cunningham, business representative of District Council 91 of the Painters Union. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Barry. Nice to be here.
There's a real family connection to your local, Local 500. My grandfather was in that local in the 1930s.
Great.
And many years ago when I was going through some belongings of my grandmother's, I found his union cards, found 3 of them. And I have them framed along with her union card. She was the old amalgamated clothing workers at the Merritt Clothing Company in Mayfield. He was in Mayfield, but he worked out of your local.
Great.
Let me begin by asking the same question I ask everybody on the program, and that it's a 2-part question. What has the labor movement meant to you personally and to the working class of the United States?
Well, as far as personally, it's I've worked both sides. I'm like everybody else. I wasn't born in the union side. I understand the non-union side of being an employee. It has provided myself and my family with a good living. I've always had the comfort of knowing I had some health benefits and looking forward to the retirement benefits. And as far as the workforce throughout the country, and I know this area as well, we feel like we're part of the solution, not part of the problem, as having those means of earning a good living, being part of the community, and just things of that nature, Barry.
Well, you mentioned health benefits, and I think that's something as we age, we become more interested in. And you know, that is such a crucial issue with public employees, unions, and public employees who are not in unions, having their health benefits cut and reduced. And that's a real issue. Maybe your young members don't think about it, but as you get a little bit older, and that's one of the big benefits of unions is the retirement benefits.
Oh, correct. And you'd be surprised that a lot of the guys, the workers, and that we discuss and talk to about coming into the union, and they don't have those benefits. They would love to have them, but yeah, there is a cost attained to it. But the retirement benefits, like I said, we feel like at the end of our careers, we've been givers to the community, things of that nature, and the health benefits is that the cost of it is increasing, and I don't know if it's because less and less people have it or just what the problem is, but it's been a comfort to us to know that our workers can have that, at least that comfort to fall back on.
Now, your union, the official name is Painters and Allied Trades. Can you give us a brief history of the Painters Union? It was the Painters Union. It was Painters Local 500. My granddad was in the 30s. So what's the history of the union?
Well, as far as the the painters, they were originated, I think it was 1887. They were first called like the Painters and Decorators, and that may even be on your family's.
I think it may be. Yeah.
Painters and Decorators.
Yeah.
Then it became the International Brotherhood of Painters. Don't know the official time when it became the Allied Trades. Paducah Local 500 was chartered in May of 1900. So we've been around quite a while.
Yeah.
As when I say crafts such as, and in the Allied Trades, we do drywall finishers, glazers, floor covering in the west side of the country, paint makers. There's just various, groups that are affiliated with the Painters and Allied Trades, and that's how it became the Allied Trades. There's a lot of those,
Well, my granddad was also a carpenter.
Was he?
I guess of course, I guess carpenter and painter would be kind of
tied.
Definitely tied together. Talk about the apprenticeship program that you have.
Well, as far as the apprenticeship program, it's something that we're pretty proud of, and it's something that, if utilized correctly by our employers, works well for them as well. We have a 4-year program. They can not only learn a trade. Of course, there's a certain amount of 144 classroom hours they have to do, 750 work hours in order to increase and elevate. They can also leave that program after 4 years. The last year of it is actually college credit that we utilize at the present time, Ivy Tech College out of Indiana there,
Oh, yeah.
Southern Indiana.
Right.
Because we're based in Evansville. Is where our guys go. When I say our guys, from Paducah here. But that last year of it, it's pretty neat to go watch the graduating ceremony. Not only are they earning their journeyman certificate and they've learned, hands-on really well their trade, but to see the individuals there from Ivy Tech presenting them with degrees, some associate degrees, some technical degrees, so they can further their career on if they so choose. They're only within a year then of vesting in their pension, so it's just a great opportunity for a young person. One that I don't think we market well enough, to be honest with you. If any parents are watching, they may want to look at a union craft, a building trade craft for a son or a daughter to enter into. I think there's real opportunities for them.
Now, do you have to be 18 to do this?
Yes. You have to be 18 in order to become indentured into the program, and I'm sure most of the building trades are that way.
Well, now, but what if you were 35 or 40?
Oh, sure, yeah. We base it upon past experience. If someone like yourself wanted to come in and we have a lot of job seekers, of course. We'll take information on them. If they can document 4 or more years working as a painter in the field steadily, we'll consider putting them out as a journeyman because of their background. If not, then we can place them in, there's no age or anything of that nature.
Well, now, most members of your local, are they construction painters, house painters? What exactly? I know you're a craft union. It goes back to the old AFL. But are most of your members, do they work on large construction projects? Are they house painters or both?
Well, pretty much a mixed bag. We call ourselves a mixed local here. We have some guys that do residential work, commercial projects, large and small, with the drywall finishing included with that. And then we have a lot of industrial painters. When I say industrial painters, guys that work in the Calvert City area, of course, in and out the plants, do anything from bridges to water tanks and towers, and travel the country, and as I did over the years. But we've got a pretty mixed bag. We can cover anything.
You mentioned bridge painters and water tower painters. I believe that's part of the job I would skip. I'm not too keen. Have you ever done that?
Yes, I have, and I've made mention the last few years. I hope I never have to do another one, but it's hard work. Those guys earn a good living, but they earn it.
Well, we were talking about painting water towers. Bill Hack, Bill, of course, for the iron workers. Bill told me about building a television tower one time. It was like way up there, and I thought, wow. I mean, I'm not all that fond of heights, but then that's a real consideration, getting up there and putting this tower. It was in Indiana somewhere, up there. Well, now, tell us about your history in the union. How were you when you joined and you worked your way up to your current position?
Well, I was like a lot of guys. I think I was about 27 when I first got in, late '79. So this is like my 32nd year of being there. Like a lot of folks, was needing a job. Was fortunate enough to be offered a position to come into the union, go to work for one of the employers. Spent a lot of time around the Calvert City area working because I grew up in Trigg County and then moved to Marshall County, but just got involved in my local union. I seen that this could be a benefit for me and my family. I never had enjoyed the benefits we spoke about earlier, and started attending union meetings and just kind of went from there. Become a warden, or whatever you want to call it, the doorkeeper at the union meetings. Served in several capacities. Became the president of our local union, and was later elected business representative for our local, and continued through that since the late '80s. It was first elected with that. Our district council was formed in August of 2002, and our local merged in and affiliated fully with our district council, which has been a plus for us, especially a smaller local union, and have been a business representative for them till current time.
And it covers what? Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois, and Indiana, parts of it. And you said Michigan too.
Well, yeah, we're a large district council as far as geographic wise. We have approximately 4,000 members. About 3,000 of those are construction, we call construction painters. About 1,000 are stationary, glass makers, paint makers, things that we had mentioned earlier. We cover the entire state of Indiana, about 2/3 of Kentucky, from Louisville, Kentucky on west, and then central Tennessee, just to put it in your mind geographically. We do have some counties in Illinois that various locals cover. We cover one here in Massac County, and a few counties in our northern locals that have a few counties over in Michigan. So we're pretty geographically widespread. So.
Well, now, obviously the difference in a craft union and an industrial union is, of course, in an industrial union, everybody in a factory is in the same union, and they have stewards and so on. Do you all have stewards as well?
We do. We try to place them job-wise.
Okay.
If there's a large employer in the area, we probably have like a shop steward.
Right.
That way someone that's working out in the field, I mean, they could be scattered all across town, but at least they have a go-to person.
Right. I wondered about that because you're on a plant, obviously
Right.
your steward is right there
Right.
with the machine. Were you a steward yourself? Did you start
Yeah, I've served as steward a few times and around the.
Another question I've asked frequently is what is the secret to success to be a good union steward? What does it take?
Well, I feel like the same as being a representative. You have to kind of see both sides of the issue and what's going on and try to partner with your employers and the situations. And yes, you want to make sure the guys are being treated fairly, but you also want to make sure that the employer is as well, and the guys are holding up their end of the bargain. I've always felt we've got an end of this bargain as well,
How often do y'all have union meetings? Once a month?
Once a month.
Do you get pretty good turnout?
Percentage-wise, yes, we do. Not like we would like, of course, but it's tailed off a few years ago, but it's mainly getting out and getting the word to the guys and getting them back in there and letting them know that it's their union and they can come in and voice their concerns. And it percentage-wise pretty good.
I've heard that craft unions they have better turnouts than industrial unions. And I was talking to an industrial union president several years ago, and I said, how do you get more people to participate? He said, well, if you knew that, you could be the president.
Right.
Is it mostly older people? No, I guess what I'm saying is, how do you get young people motivated to support their union, to not just be a union member, to be a union person?
Well, we try to use kind of a mentor type system, I guess. If you've got a journeyman guy out on the job site, and just to let that young person know, gal or guy, whatever, that that it's your union. Show up to the meeting. We had worked it out through our apprenticeship years ago that if it was a young apprentice, that we consider it kind of educational, I guess you could say, attending meetings and understanding, and give them a little bit of credit for that. As kind of an incentive for them. But I feel like that the journeyman out on those jobs, especially if you have an officer in the union that's working out on those job sites, to help mentor and invite people down and things of that nature.
One thing, in talking to other craft union officers, in your program, your apprenticeship program, you all stress union history. I mean, they learn about the history of this union.
That's a 6-day class that we have.
and I think that is so important, and not just because I teach history, but I think you really appreciate any organization more that you belong to if you know the history of it. And I don't think, I think a lot of guys in industrial unions don't know the history. And they have a great history, just like craft unions. But I think that's terrific that you all weave that into the program to really to appreciate that.
Yep, that's yeah. I think so too, and it's interesting. Matter of fact, we've got a book out, that our international union put out from day one of our history on up to when it was, of course, written out. But it was very interesting, But yeah, I agree with you. Everybody needs to know the history of what they're being involved with, and lets them know that they're reaping the benefits of those that went before them, and it's up to them to keep that moving.
Another thing too, and of course, we live in a communications revolution. Do you all use the social media and the internet to get the word out?
Yeah, you pretty much have to. Of course, I'm kind of old school and not as proficient on it as a lot of our younger reps and folks. But yes, we do that. You just about have to in this day and age to get the word out to those guys. And I mean, even our international union nationwide, you can get text on job alerts, things of that nature, where someone may be needing employees, or a certain skill, and they can get it text to them and email to them.
You're right about that. We were talking at a council meeting, area council meeting the other night about this. One guy said, "Well, how many times do you get an email and ignore it?" Lots of times. How many times you get a text message and ignore it? Never.
Right.
And that is such a communication tool. And of course, I go back to the days when there were union newspapers.
Right.
And I guarantee that the painters had a newspaper at one time. And they've gotten away from that. And you really have to adapt to the communication part, and that is so important.
Oh yeah, we used to do a monthly newsletter and get out to our members and folks, and you always wondered were they reading them or not, and sometimes you could find out because they may not respond to something
Right.
in there.
Right.
But you're correct. You know, this younger generation, they want it. That's how they want it, and even some of the other guys. But I agree with you. You got to just kind of keep up with the time.
Well, now, how's the technology of painting? When my granddad painted, I remember when he died, he had a toolbox and he had paintbrushes. He had something called a duster brush that he cleaned cobweb, and he had scrapers and all kinds of tools. He also did some glazing because he had some tools for that. So how has the technology of painting changed through the years?
Oh, it's evolved tremendously. I can remember the guys mixing their own colors. You know, when I first started, a lot of times, of course, now you go to the paint store and, you know, there's 40 shades of white.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's evolved a lot, you know, in the materials, and a lot of them you have to be certified anymore, you know, to apply them. Through our training program, we're working on what we call a CAS. It's called a Certified Applicator Professional, because a lot of the manufacturers, the products that they've got out there now, of course, the key to the longevity of their material is a lot of the prep work prior to. You know, it's only as good as the prep work done before you applicate it, but still that process, and then it gives them I think a warranty it a little longer, a little better if they know it's done to those specifications. So there's a lot of things we get certified on.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure you still do old-fashioned brush painting.
Oh yeah, there's guys out there today still cutting in a door and a window just like your dad did in the 30s. But yeah, the old dusters come from the old wore-out brush, and you make a duster out of it.
That's, you know. He had one. I remember
we
that.
We still pack the scrapers and the dusters.
He called it, my granddad called it a duster brush. Yeah, right. Yeah. And you do a lot of, I'm sure spray painting too is a big thing.
Oh sure, a lot of spray painting.
Especially on bridges. I'm assuming you spray paint those.
Oh, we do a lot of spraying and a lot of sandblasting. You know, even in and out of the chemical complex and piping and things like that, we'll blast it. And of course, that's mainly to either get the mill scale or put a profile on it to where whatever material you're applying to it, it adheres properly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, getting back to the program, just sketch that out. Let's say you've got a 18, 19-year-old man or woman who enrolls. Take us through the class from beginning to end.
As far as
the apprentice, the actual, they've got in the program, they go to Evansville to start the classes. So how does that work?
Well, of course, they've got a curriculum, you know, that they go through. The first year of it, they do a lot of their OSHA trainings, OSHA 10s, OSHA 30s. They get certified in lead abatement, things of that nature. And they go a week at a time. We call it a 40-hour block. Where used to in the old days, we designated a night a week for apprentice training. And it was kind of difficult to do that in a short period of time. They go to Evansville. We have a real nice facility there. They have a lot of modules set up there where they can go in and teach them hands-on drywall finishing, wall covering, the painting techniques and things. We've got an old saying, the walls don't lie. So if you're painting one of them and I'm one of them, you know, and we try to help each other and see where maybe your flaws are and things like that. But they progress on through blueprint reading. It's just how to tear down equipment and put it back, repack pumps, things of that nature. So there's a lot of involvement, and we got some great trainers, and the feedback that I get from our apprentices, they really enjoy being there.
Oh yeah.
And they really enjoy it due to the fact that they feel like they're there for those 40 hours, and they put their whites on just like they're showing up for work, and they really enjoy it because they're learning. And it's really been great for me to watch apprentices go through that 4-year program, and within a couple of years of out in the field as a journeyman, being a foreman or a pusher or running work over guys that's maybe been in the trade for 15 years. And it's just due to the fact that they learned the skills and the updated materials and things of that nature. And then, you know, we try to teach them a little bit about the business side of it. So,
do they also have refresher training as they go through periodically?
Oh, sure. We have journeyman upgrade, refresher training, and things of that nature. It's just ongoing. We have classes all the time. A lot of those we'll do locally here. Bring the trainer in, you know, for our journeyman guys. But it's open to anyone that wants to learn. You don't have to be an apprentice if you want, if you have the time and want to go.
You know, back in the old days, they had to actually plaster walls.
Yeah.
Does anybody do that anymore?
Some, but you know, a lot of it now is sprayed on. What they call the knockdown systems and things like that. So,
I think there was a plasterers union, wasn't there?
There
a long
was.
time ago?
The cement mason and plasters kind of were together. Certain pockets of the area, even within our council, we still do a lot of what we call EFS work and plaster work through the painters. Well,
now the allied trades part of your union, what allied trades are those?
Well, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's the glazers, you know, drywall finishers.
And at one time, they were separate unions?
They were separate. They were always a part of the painters union, but years ago they kind of had their own world in a sense, and evolving through the years, that's how we became the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Kind of brought us all in under one umbrella, which really helps, like the floor covers, the drywall finishers, and the things that we do now. You know.
How many members nationally or internationally? I guess you got members in Canada too, United States and Canada. How many members do you have altogether approximately?
It's running, I think, in the 140-something thousand to 150,000 in that area. You know, within our district council, like I mentioned earlier, we've got about 4,000 and about 400 employers that we service and deal with. Throughout
Who are some of the local employers that use union labor?
Well, of course, a lot of the general contractors, we're always a subcontractor, but for larger commercial jobs, just to mention some, and hope none get mad if I leave them out.
We'll do this with do it best, Don't want to leave anybody out.
We have a Slinker Painting. They do some large-scale residential and commercial projects, keep a good crew of guys going a lot. Of course, around the Calvert City area, you know, Bass Maintenance, Travis Construction, Morrissey Incorporated, DK Construction. There's several around. We have about 10 that are signatory here locally, just under our construction agreement. You know, and then of course we service the land between the lakes up there as well, and pretty much it. But we're a small local union. We've got about 75 guys. But during the summer months, we'll probably bump up to 100 guys because we have some out-of-area contractors like a Hartman Walsh Painting. They're a large nationwide company that comes into this area and does projects, and we keep guys with them here. You know, so we stay pretty busy.
And you know, I think another thing too about being a craft union, obviously, you take pride in doing a good job of painting a house. There's a real pride in that, I think, in a craft union.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And when I was out in the field doing that, it was always, you know, you can back up at the end of the day and see what you've done, you know, and see your work, or you can drive by something with your grandkids later on.
I was going to ask you if you do that.
You know, I worked on that, you know, or we painted that bridge, or I remember hanging off that tower, you know, or working on this project. So there's a lot of that goes on, and I've had individuals you talking about from plant facilities or workers that, you know, kind of worrisome, I guess, maybe on the way we operate as a craft worker. Because actually, I tell guys, you know, we're hired to work ourselves out of a job. I mean, that's actually what we're hired to do. From the employer's standpoint, he wants to get that job knocked out and make his profit and hopefully move on to the next one. But in a sense, we're hired to work ourselves out of a job.
Yeah.
And nobody's really kind of looked at it that way, but it's the truth.
You know, thinking of that, years ago there was a movie made here called In Country.
Oh, yeah.
Did you all work with that movie?
Sure did. There's been 2 or 3 of them that we've done here. In Country.
What'd you do for In Country? Do you remember?
Well, we had 3 or 4 guys there, and it was pretty interesting. I tried to, as a business rep, I guess I had a little bit of an in to go see the guys, but it's pretty interesting and very, to watch those guys, how they do. The old house that, it was inside the Mayfield gymnasium.
I think it was the gym here, wasn't it?
It could have been.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, it was.
And then of course they built the, the fake, I call it fake, the Vietnam Wall for those scenes.
They did.
And those things of that nature. And to go watch those guys work on those things, and one of the bids you mentioned, I'd have forgotten, but that building, there's a material, they painted that house and then put a material on it, and you could just stand back and watch it crack and peel
exactly.
to make it look like it was 100 years old.
You're right.
And those guys that tech guys or whatever you want to call them, those guys are really specialists in their field, and it was really interesting.
Well, what made me think of that is they built a fake restaurant in Mayfield, just off the Court Square.
Right.
And I was working for the newspaper then, and I was down there watching them build this thing, and there were some painters, I'm sure from your local, and this guy said, never in my life have I been paid to do a job and then mess it up.
Yeah.
And they painted this door, and they put something on it that made the paint craze and crack.
Right.
There were some guys from the carpenters local, I'm sure, and they built some steps, wooden steps, and then they took sander and sanded out like where your feet wear it out. And there was another deal, and this one of the painters, they painted this thing and then took a chain and hit it to make it. They really were really having fun doing that,
right?
Because you never get a chance to do. You want it to look really sharp, but no, we got to make it look good. But they put some chemical on this door, and it looked like the door was 50 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
What other movies did you all do?
Well, I was just trying to think back. I think it was The Fugitive maybe with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes.
They done a couple of scenes. Of course, a lot of that was done over in Southern Illinois.
Right.
But we participated in that a little bit because one of the scenes was done at the old Brookport Bridge. They had a scene at Benton at the hospital there, and we worked a little bit in it. And I'm trying to think of the other one. It was several years ago, but
there was a movie called The River Rat.
That is it.
That was the one. That was here, and that was with.
They kind of based themselves down at the old where the old boat club was down there on Clark's
River Boat Club. That's right.
Sure
there was. Yeah. Well, I just when we were just sitting here, I thought about that. That must have been a lot of fun doing it. But this guy, I taught him. He says, I just, I paint this door, this beautiful white door, and then I put this stuff on it. It may look ugly, but that's what they want. And it was just a lot of fun. That movie thing was just, I enjoyed covering that, just talking to the extras and people involved rather than the actors themselves. But I thought that, and then they built it. That restaurant was so realistic, by the way. After work one day, I took my wife over to see it. And of course, the police were guarding it because it was a live set. I mean, you can't move anything on a set because somebody's going to notice that. Right. And this couple came up and says, "Are you all still serving dinner?" And the chief of police said, "No, this is not a real restaurant." Really? And they tore it down, lock, stock, and barrel. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, we are out of town. Out of time. Thanks for coming, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
I look forward to that, Barry. Thank you very much.
My guest today was Al Cunningham. I'm Barry Craig. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.